Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining. And hello to anyone who is watching the recording of this later. This is the basic principles of art and design. And I created this lecture thinking of all of the self-taught artists and designers out there that are just trying to do what feels natural without really understanding how artists and designers work, and without really understanding that there is a system and a language for how art and design works. And so I'm going to be showing you some examples of some things that NFT artists on the Near protocol blockchain have created that are good examples of some of these art and design principles. And I don't know that any of them are formally trained artists, but we're going to take a look, and hopefully you'll learn something. And these are just some tools, some ideas that you can use to help improve your art and your design. So let's start. We're going to talk about composition. And composition is the way that the visual elements, and visual elements can be anything that we are looking at in your art. It could be the character's hair, clothing, anything that the character might be holding, anything in the background, any patterns. The way that these things are organized and arranged. These things, the way that they're arranged, the composition, can be used to direct the viewer's eye, so you can decide where you want people to look in your art, in your design. And it can also create mood, feeling, and it can help tell the story. It can make your image more interesting, beautiful, and pleasing, but it can also create other types of feelings. If you have a dystopian city, it can make that scene feel more uncomfortable. If you have an action scene, it can make that feel more dynamic, more alive. If you have a sad, emotional scene, you can make that composition feel more dark and more intimate, or many other types of feelings and moods. And so experimenting with composition can change the feeling and appeal even of PFP projects, of the profile picture projects. So let's look at one of the first, most basic principles is the focal point of deciding where do you want people to look and directing them to look. And so here in this first one, we have a photographer, and the focal point that we're looking at is this camera. And so the artist uses the lines of the arms and the legs to direct us to look at the camera. In this next one, we have this mechanical insect. And the focal point we're looking at, let me choose a different color here, is the center point here with this intricate the designs there. And so we see the lines of the wings. All of these lines here lead our eye to look at this center point here. And then here, of course, this final one, not only do we have these bold lines leading us to look at the center face, but you can see the effect, this color shading effect here, how that is used, how we have the sort of light to dark color effect is used to draw the viewer's eye into the center focal point here. Ooh. All right. So the next principle is the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is where you're going to divide your image into thirds, and that will give you a set of interesting places to put your focal points. And so here, we're just going to draw lines dividing this image into thirds. And we see that this artist put the eyes of the characters right on those lines, the eyes and the ears. Here, if we look at this one, if we draw it approximately into thirds there and across, we have there at that point. And then here, we divide this into thirds. We see right here, this artist put this head, but also this star, and then, pretty close down, I think maybe we've got like this hair happening here. And so when we're looking at the rule of thirds, I'll show you better here. All of these lines here around the edges and these interior points, they're all good places to put your focal points, not only along the lines themselves, like this artist did here, but at the intersections of the lines and the places where the lines meet the edge. Those are all really good, interesting places to put your focal point. Another interesting way to decide where to put your focal point and how to lay out your image, how to lay out your design, is the golden ratio. And this one is really fun. This is a design that exists in nature. And so anyone can observe this in nature. It exists in plants, in animals, in the human body. And so throughout history, all across the world, many different people and many different cultures have noticed this and used it. The cultures that have been most interested in the golden ratio were the ancient Greeks and the ancient Indians in India, and also European Renaissance painters were very interested in the golden ratio. It is a mathematical relationship, and so if you're into math, if you have a strong background in math and coding, you might know about this and about the Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci sequence is, comes from the golden ratio. But the golden ratio itself, if you want the exact numbers, is 1 to 1.618. And so, as artists, I don't want to spend a lot of time on the mathematics of it, but this is what it looks like here. This rectangle here is divided into smaller squares. And so this rectangle here, this is 1. and this larger rectangle is going to be 1.618, and then it repeats going down, divided smaller and smaller as far as you want to go. And if you create a spiral, that you can use that spiral as a way to draw your viewer's eye into your painting. Many classical European Renaissance paintings use this pattern, this spiral, and this golden ratio. You can apply this to so many classical European paintings, but I don't want to show classical European paintings. I want to show NFTs. I want to show art that people in our community are making. So let's look at what we have. This first one I have here, and the golden ratio, it occurs in the human body. And so let's look, first of all, we can see like approximately the 1 to 1.618 division here at the shoulders. And then we can see how approximately the spiral happens here, leading us to the character's eyes. In this one, we can also see how approximately the 1 to 1.618 happens. And we can see how approximately that spiral happens as well, leading us from, up here all the way down to the character here. This is really fun to work with in design layout. So if you are creating posters, banners, album covers, anything like that, using this golden ratio, using this is really fun to have it as a template and to lay out your designs according to this as a template. It creates some really beautiful and interesting design layouts. So next, let's talk about positive and negative space. So it's the space that is filled with something and the space that is empty. And a lot of times we'll see where we have this negative space all around. And in here, because this is a skull, we've got this sort of cutout, and we've got the negative space holes inside of the positive space. It creates a very interesting design. We have sort of an even amount of negative space all around. In the next one here, this artist has done something very interesting. First of all, they've done something very interesting by having their image touch the edge here. So it creates a very dynamic, interesting image. Instead of being centered in the center, it touches the edge. And then by using this sort of single line technique, they create all of this negative space inside. So it's very, very interesting to have all of this negative space inside of just this very small single line positive space image. Our third image here, this artist is using the positive and negative space as, with the light and the shadow, and using that to create this illusion of a body, of a person, because all we have are these very thin lines of positive space that again touch the edges and sort of run off the edge of the canvas here. But it's just this very, very thin, small amount of positive space with all of this negative space in the middle here, creating this illusion of a body. Lines. The direction of your lines create different feelings and moods. So let's look at the lines here in this first one. So horizontal lines are going across here the horizon, and vertical lines going up and down. This creates a very stable feeling. And so we just want to sit here with these people. It has a very strong feeling. We're not having any sort of overwhelming emotions. It's very, very calm. We just want to sit here. It feels good, right? It's a very stable, very strong feeling to just have the horizontal and the vertical lines. And the next one, we have the diagonal lines. We have a lot of diagonal lines on this character, even in the earrings here. So many diagonal lines. Diagonal lines are more dramatic. There's more action. There's something going on. This is a lot of feeling, right? We feel like there's something going to happen. This character is very active. This character is going to do something. Something is going to happen here. And curved lines, this one, there's a lot of curved lines here. We've got curved lines here. We've got all these curved lines up here. Curved lines are very soothing, very calming. See, we have like the figure meditating here. This is a very calming, meditative sort of feeling, very soothing, very calm. So you can use line to create these different kinds of feelings and moods. Symmetry and balance. When both sides are the same, similar, or even with each other. Or you can also use symmetry and balance. You can create things that are off balance. But all of the examples that I have here are very, very balanced and symmetrical. In this one, we see that, using the black and the white color, there's, we have this symmetry and this balance here to create a very stable and balanced feeling in this art. This next one, we have a couple of different kinds of symmetry and balance happening. On the outside, we have a sort of a diagonal symmetry here, creating, sort of a diagonal line across. There's a very strong kind of diagonal feeling. But then we also have this sort of, symmetry here with these coming across. So we have a lot of symmetry and balance across in all directions. And in this one here, again, we have the symmetry going in different directions using the black and the white. And so having very even, similar sides, having it very balanced, and having it very symmetrical creates a very soothing a very pleasing sort of look. But if you want to create something that is not symmetrical and not balanced, you can do that and it will have a very different feeling and a very different mood. And that's something you can really experiment with and play with and see what happens when something is not symmetrical, when something is not balanced. Like, here, like this one, it's not centered, it's not even. What happens when you put something all on one side? How does that feel? How does that make it different? And so symmetry and balance is something that you can really play with and create different moods, different feelings. Light and shadow. Light and shadow. This is another one that you can really do a lot of fun things with. Now, in this first one, we see now in the background, we have these strong vertical lines. And we also have our light source coming from up here, shining down, creating this, very vertical shadow. We have the shadows on the hair. The hair is creating shadows on the face. It has a very stable feeling, but also because of the lines, we get a little bit of an action feel here. Here in the next one, we see the artist has used light and shadow to help create the shape. And so we see up here, the white light creates the line, creates the shape of this armor. And we see the black here creating the shape on this side. And the black here creating the outline. And then the shadow extending to the wall. And then the shadow of these gunshots, it looks like, creating a story. And so we have light and shadow doing so much for us in this second piece here. And we can see that the light source is up here somewhere. Now in this third one, the artist did something really interesting. The light source is coming from behind the character. So this, the blue, the purple, this thing here, this is the light source. And you can see there's light sort of on the outside shoulders here and shadow all down the center. So we have light here and shadow all down the center. A little bit of light on the ears. And that's, it's something a little bit tricky for new artists to do, but very fun to play with. It creates a very different look and can create a glowing effect if you want your character to have a glow to them, to put your lighting behind the character to create this glow so that the light is on the outside. So light can also add to all of these other principles of composition and design that we've been talking to, helping to create mood, feeling, create line and shape. Perspective. Now, this is a really, really big topic, and I'm going to go through it very, very quickly. So this is one that you might want to do more research on because it's a very important topic when you're drawing, and it can be very difficult to get it right the first few times. But it's the idea that the size of objects change because of the distance from the viewer. And so here in this first one, we see that the house that's closest to us are really big, but the houses in the distance are really, really small, right? And so this is 1-point perspective. And you can get these grids like this, these 1-point perspective grids. You can download them. You can find them online. A lot of drawing apps will automatically give you grids like this. And that makes it really easy that you can, learn to just draw your characters so that you know what size everything needs to be, like that. And so let's look at this other one. You can use it for the body as well. It makes very, very interesting characters when you use perspective on the body. It's called foreshortening. If I can squeeze that in there. Foreshortening. And so you see this character, the hand is tiny there, but these hands are big. And so we've got, perspective like that, a 1-point perspective going off in the distance like that. We also have it up here with the food. How the food that's closer is larger, the food that's farther away is smaller. So we have it like that. You can do more than 1 point in perspective. You can do 2-point perspective, which will give you a corner, like we see here. And so a lot of times people will use this for like city buildings. But you can also do it if you have maybe, I don't know, maybe your characters are reaching out towards each other. Something like that. And so as their hands come together, the hands get larger. While the bodies are in the distance, the bodies stay smaller. But we see a good example of 2-point perspective here in this building, that the front is larger and the corners and these sticks kind of get smaller, going off into the distance like this. We also have the 1-point perspective here of these, the stones. So we've got, kind of a complicated picture here with different types of perspective, the 1-point perspective here and the 2-point perspective for the poles and the building. Okay, color theory. Color theory is a really, really big topic. Again, another big topic that you might want to look for more information about. You're going to see these color wheels. Maybe you've seen them before to help you choose colors, and maybe you've read different things. Let's see, about primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors, color mixing. That's all very interesting. But how do we pick the colors that we want to use? How do we know what colors look good with each other? And how do colors make us feel? And that can vary from culture to culture. In different cultures, different colors have different meanings. And so that's something to consider. But in general, when we're thinking about choosing colors, there's monochromatic, which means we have one color. So in this first one, we've got all this orange, very, very orange. So many different shades of orange. And, of course, there's a little bit of the yellow, a little bit of the brown, but there's just orange, orange, orange. So much orange in this first one. The second one, analogous, we have one color with some similar colors. So we've got the purple, we've got some other purples, we've got a lot of purple, and then we've got a little bit of blue, and a little bit of pink, and a little bit of some other colors, but it's just mostly very purple. And in this third one, and I collected this one very specifically because of the complementary color here, two contrasting colors. So we have the colors from the opposite side of the color wheel. We've got this purple and this sort of yellowy orange color. So we've got this color and this color here. And we have the green and the red, again, from the opposite side of the color wheel here. Very bold, very strong. Each of these color ideas, they'll give a very different feeling. So this monochromatic one, it's a very stable, very calming, very conservative, very easy to look at. And this is really useful in design. If you're doing any web design, any posters, banners, flyers, anything for the web, it's really useful to use monochromatic colors because it's very easy to see. It's very easy to read. If you just use shades of the same color with, black or white text, it's very easy to read, very easy to look at. It's very, very conservative. It's a good choice for a lot of design, monochromatic color schemes, just different shades of the same color. Analogous, it's a little more exciting, and it's very pleasing because we're using colors that are, together on the color wheel here. The purple, a little bit of blue, a little bit of pink. So it's a little bit more exciting, but it's still very conservative. It's still very pleasing to the eye, still very easy to look at. But it's just, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more interesting to look at. And then these complementary colors where you have, these very, very bold color differences, the red and the green together, the purple and the yellow orange color together. This is a very, very bold statement. And this is something that can be very useful and be very interesting in design and in art. But you need to make sure that it fits with what you're trying to say, with the story that you're trying to tell, with the brand that you're talking about. And so you don't see it as much in design, the sort of complementary colors like this. But it can certainly be used. You'll see it more in art, like in this art here. And there's certainly a lot more to color theory. This is a very, very big topic. But this is just the very, very basics of what can be done and what we can think about when choosing colors. Are there any questions?
I'm loving your class. So much content. It's awesome to me.
Yeah. I mean, this is an entire semester of art in what was that, like 45 minutes?
Yeah, it's a very dense class. But I also love that you only use near examples of art. It's so cool. So thoughtful.
There are so many very, very good artists on the Near blockchain, and I worked very hard to find good examples from the Near blockchain. I came up with a few more resources. Adobe products are expensive, but they have a lot of really good free resources. They do also have some free products as well, like Adobe Fresco is free. It's their drawing app. But Adobe has some really good tools for learning about color theory. They have a really good website about color theory, and they also have a good website for choosing your color palettes, for choosing the colors that you want to use, and for finding out if your colors are going to be visible to people that are colorblind. So that's really important if you're doing web design or designing banners or graphics, to figure out if the colors that you choose are actually going to be visible to people that are colorblind. So I highly recommend their website for that. YouTube also has, yeah, it is. It's been really helpful because you choose your color palette, and then you click their accessibility tools, and it shows you what your colors look like with various types of color blindness. So you can figure out if something's too similar and you need to choose a different color. YouTube has a lot of really good videos. If there are any of these topics that you want to learn more about, you can go to YouTube. There are a lot of art classes on YouTube, a lot of people teaching how to do various different things, art on YouTube. There's one YouTube channel that I really like that has really good advice for artists. It's motivational advice more than technique. So if you just need motivation as an artist, how to think of yourself as an artist, it's called Sketchbook School. He is not a digital artist at all. He draws with pen and paints in a paper sketchbook, but he has really good life advice and motivation advice. But go to YouTube and explore all of the artists that are showing all the different techniques, all of the people that are explaining what is whatever color theory or golden ratio, how to do whatever on YouTube. There's a lot of really good resources there. And also another resource that I like that has some really good college level art and design courses Many of them are free, but some are paid, and it's Coursera.org. Because people don't really value art classes the way that they value, say, coding classes. Most of the art classes are free, and so you can learn a lot of art for free. Get some of the art and design courses for free. I mean, if you want to learn UX design or something that sounds like a job, those courses are paid. But most of the art courses on there are free, so I recommend that. And that one's blank. So yeah, is there anything you want me to go back and explain further? Any specific questions?
I'm writing it down in the chat, some of your links that you recommended.
Oh.
The last one, sure. I wrote it wrong. I forgot an R.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I think I've done it right. And the last one would be Coursera.
I can also post these slides on the Metaverse DAO Telegram and on Twitter, so people can have the slides, and anyone that missed the live class here that maybe is watching later on YouTube can access the slides later.
That'd be great. Would love to. Your class was amazing, packed with information. Even though most of it I already knew, for sharpening, had no idea about the term. So cool.
Yeah. And I know there's so many of our artists and designers are, they just don't have access to, college level courses, or, maybe they've only had a small amount of art education and are working really hard, really excited, really enthusiastic. And I just want to make, this information available.
You've been amazing. I loved your class, love your presentation, love the extra links, and this thing that I also didn't know about a website that checks if colorblind people would look at something and it work for them. It's very inclusive. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, thank you all. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for anyone who is watching the recording later.